Spider-Man, the animated series. I said I'd be back, so I am back. And I said it before, but I have to mention it again, how much it sucks that we don't have, or at least I don't have, I can't get the complete series, all 5 seasons, so I have to do just with these individual DVDs. Now we're at the return of the Green Goblin. Because in the first disc, I talked about the origin of the Green Goblin. We saw Norman Osborn become the Goblin, but we thought we were done with him. We thought Spider-Man stopped him once and for all, but clearly that wasn't the case. Now, I want to start talking about some stuff that I like that this show was able to get right as far as Spider-Man goes, and that's the fact that Peter Parker just can't catch a break, especially when it comes to Mary Jane. I mean, he has been in love with Mary Jane for the longest time, but she was dating Harry Osborn, so he was being respectful of that, and he said, fine, okay. But she broke up with Harry, so now the two of them are actually really dating, and you would think he'd be happy, but his obligations to be Spider-Man is constantly messing up the relationship. Like, he has to keep disappearing whenever trouble happens, and Mary Jane's thinking, why does he keep running off? Does it make her look a little dumb that she is that confused on why he keeps running away, and then Spider-Man shows up? It's almost like the Lois Lane Superman thing, right? Now, the first episode is called The Spot. And I have to admit, this villain was kind of lame. He was just a scientist who... This was cool. He was trying to get this project started with Tony Stark, of all people. Now, I know this wasn't as much of a big deal back then, but now to relook back at this, it's like, wow. Like, Tony Stark showed up almost regularly on the Spider-Man animated show before anyone really gave a crap of who Tony Stark was. But that deal didn't work out, so this scientist ends up working with, guess who? The Kingpin. Who the Kingpin, I swear, was in every single one of these episodes. I'm not complaining, but it's funny how he's involved with almost every villain that gets started on this show. It's amazing that he's able to run his business without people knowing. I mean, people do know that he's an underground crime boss, but it's almost like he can just do whatever the hell he wants and get away with it. Now, the Hobgoblin is all over this, which is surprising because this is supposed to be about the Green Goblin, but like I said, the Hobgoblin in this universe, in this continuity, was there first. And I don't know why I didn't realize it in the first disc, but watching this one, dude, the Hobgoblin is voiced by Mark Hamill. Like, it's so funny listening to him talk, and I'm like, wow, this sounds like the Joker. Batman the Animated Series Joker. And I was just kind of freaking out and losing my mind, and I'm like, holy crap. I mean, he played both of these characters. Spider-Man himself has feelings for Felicia Hardy, and that's interesting to see, like, Spider-Man falling for Felicia, but Peter Parker obviously being in love with Mary Jane. It's a little upsetting that there's no Gwen at all. I completely understand why they didn't do Gwen because of her, like, where she ends up. They probably just didn't know how to do Gwen. I would have liked for them, though, to just have Gwen be there, and it's like you didn't have to do the same thing as the comics. You could have just had maybe him being in love with Gwen and Mary Jane and then having to pick one. Whatever. It does help get the Felicia Hardy character more out there. I mean, that's how I became pretty aware of her, was this show. I love the moments where Norman is talking to the Goblin in the mirror. Like, just, it's Norman, but then in the reflection of the mirror, it's the Green Goblin. And it's like, it's almost like he's talking to a different person. How he thinks it's a different person. I don't even think he realizes that it's himself. And when we come to the moment where the Hobgoblin fights the Green Goblin, I mean, it's not like a big epic fight or anything like that, but just seeing the two of them in one place, going at it in any type of way, was epic enough to be awesome. Like I said, Felicia Hardy's fiance, Jason, is revealed to be the Hobgoblin. And the Green Goblin it's almost like they did away with the Hobgoblin character. They got rid of him to focus on the Green Goblin and make him Spider-Man's top enemy, at least on this show, because then Green Goblin is smart, he's calculated, he follows Peter Parker, just like in the comic books, and he sees him take his mask off and he finds out that he's Peter Parker. Wow. You have a moment where Norman recognizes that Peter is his son's best friend, but the Green Goblin takes over and says, alright, we're going to use this to our advantage. And he goes to Aunt May's house, and he acts like he's going to go after her, but then no, he swears Spider-Man and then goes after Mary Jane. And from here on, this episode was one of the most dark episodes of this season. I mean, or this show. I don't remember how dark this got, but when he kidnaps Mary Jane, he takes her to the bridge, and it's almost like they're redoing the Gwen Stacy death. And of course, it's a Saturday morning cartoon show, so they don't go too far as the death goes, but Mary Jane does fall off of the bridge, and Spider-Man tries to save her, but it's like he's too late. And they at least make it seem like Mary Jane just died at the hands of the Green Goblin, and then Spider-Man just gets so pissed. It's so out of character for him because he's always joking around usually, and he's so angry, and he goes after Goblin. It becomes personal instantly, and just that whole sequence I loved. And of course Mary Jane isn't dead, though. We see that she's trapped in some alternate world, dimension, probably because of the Madam Web, the creepy lady. Now, the next episode, I initially, while I was watching it, wasn't really that impressed with it. I was just kind of sitting there like, okay. Because Robbie, J. Jonah Jameson's assistant from the Daily Bugle, he gets framed for this crime that he didn't do, and Spider-Man's trying to prove his innocence. And I was just kind of sitting there like, I don't really care about this. I think the only reason why it was there was to show Spider-Man's guilt for what happened to Mary Jane. But then when I got to the special features, and you get more of Stan Lee talking about these episodes and whatnot, the way how he explained why he liked this episode, that it showed that Peter Parker, as a man, can do what he has to do, that he was able to prove Robbie's innocence based on his intellect, based on just his wise ideas on how to get him out of it. It wasn't him being Spider-Man that saved the day. And I heard that and I go, you know, that's a good point. This show is a lot more Spider-Man based, that it is refreshing to get Peter Parker save the day for once. So guys, obviously I enjoyed this. I'm telling you, what they do with Green Goblin and Mary Jane, I was super impressed just rewatching it at how far they were able to take it. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the Return of the Green Goblin, if you've seen it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Later!